All right. So once again, I just want to say good morning to everybody. Thank you all for joining us for our February Arizona Indian Education Association General Meeting. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. And we'll get started. So now I kwahat hato emtoya goigu masip chawi aim dog Kimberly Dankabigay Akan. My name is Kimberly Dankabigay. I am of the Kiowa, Caddo, and Pawnee Nations, originally from Oklahoma. I currently work in Tucson, Arizona as a Native American Education Coordinator with Amphitheater Public Schools, and I currently sit as the president for the AIEA. I first want to do a land acknowledgement to start off our meeting this morning, so if you'll just bear with me for a few minutes. Beneath the contemporary surface of any site in the United States, there are histories of belonging that have been erased, overlooked, contested, and forgotten, all ways to support ideas like manifest destiny, which justified the conquest of native lands. Between 1776 and 1887, the United States seized over 1.5 billion acres from America's indigenous peoples by treaty and executive order. There are currently 574 sovereign tribal nations, variously called tribes, nations, bands, pueblos, communities, and native villages that have a formal native nation-to-nation relationship with the United States government. There are 334 federally and state recognized American Indian reservations in 2010. These 574 tribal nations are now located across 35 states within the geographical borders of the United States. Even within the US borders, each tribal nation exercises its own sovereignty. Each of the 574 tribal governments is legally defined as a federally recognized tribal nation. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who have contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment in time. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. Today, we acknowledge the ancestral lands of the Acamel Otham and the Peepash people upon which our AIEA headquarters stands. I also acknowledge the homelands of the Tohono O'odham and the Waimea Pasquayaki people upon which I currently am. We pay respects to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that brings us here together today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. Thank you for your patience and time and respect for allowing us to read this statement. With that, I would like to have our introductions, and I would like to start with our executive board members to introduce themselves, and we can start first with our Vice President, Esther, and then Jerry, once Esther is done, if you don't mind, or all our executives are done, if you don't mind just going down the list. Esther?
Yeah, hello. My name is Esther Nystrom. I'm the Vice President for AIEA. Thank you for being here today. We all welcome you and many blessings as you have a wonderful 3-day weekend ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jerry Thomas. I'm the AIEA Secretary and also the Healthy Native Youth Specialist at the Intertribal Council of Arizona. I am Navajo, and I'm happy to see everyone here. So thank you.
Go ahead, Lunan.
Oh, go ahead, Travis. Go for it.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Travis Lane. I'm the Assistant Director for Intertribal Council of Arizona and Treasurer for the Arizona Indian Education Association. It's good to see everybody and happy February.
Hi, Shaylin Yazian, Twahedlini Nashlido, my desk is Bashashin. Tatnazani the Shachedo, Kiani Lashanella. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our meeting. My name is Linan Yazi. I am the co-secretary for AIEA, and I also work with Phoenix Union High School District as the Native American specialist. Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, first up on my screen is Sami.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sami Waitiwa. I serve as the Policy Specialist Tribal Liaison for the Arizona Department of Education. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Sami. Next, I have Cheyenne.
Hello, my name is Cheyenne Grabiak. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator here at Coconino Community College.
Thank you. Next, we have Dana.
Hey, good morning, Dana Wilcox. Good to meet everybody. I'm a coordinator with the ITEP program, Indigenous Teacher Education program at the University of Arizona.
Thank you for being here. Next, we have Joaquin.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Joaquin Preston. I'm the Tribal State Policy Associate with the National Indian Education Association.
Thank you. Let's see here. And then we also have Margaret on the line. Okay, if no one else, I think we can move forward.
All right. Again, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. We'll move along on the agenda. Next slide, Jerry. So this is just an overview of the agenda for today. Very quickly, we did our welcome, our land acknowledgement, our introductions. Next, we have our approval of the minutes, our president's report, followed by our treasurer's report. We'll allow some time for Indian education updates to take place. Then we start off with our old business, which is just a recap of our winter camp, youth camp. And then moving into new business, we're going to talk just a little bit about our membership, our upcoming scholarship for this coming school year, as well as the webinar series that we have currently happening within our AIEA. Then we'll do our program share outs for anybody who would like to share out any events or flyers, any updates you would like to share about your program. Please have those ready, and we will do that as soon as we get to that portion on our agenda. With that, we would adjourn. Please mark your calendars. Our meetings are held every third Friday of every month. Our next meeting will be held on March 18th. That will be Friday at 11 o'clock. So first on the agenda is our approval of the minutes. And Jerry, if you don't mind. Oh, very quickly, before we get to that, Margaret did introduce herself in the chat. I will speak out on her behalf. She actually works with our program here at Amphitheater Public Schools. She is our tutor advisor here in Tucson. So thank you, Margaret, for joining us. I know she sometimes, which she put in the chat, she has technical difficulties and her audio for that. So thank you, Margaret, for joining us this morning. With that, Jerry, we have the approval of the minutes. So if you can drop the minutes for December 17th and January 21st in the chat box. And if membership would please take a look and review at those minutes. We'll give about, I don't want to take too much time, so we'll give about maybe 2 or 3 minutes to review those quickly, and then I'll call for a vote.
Kim, would you like me to pull up the December minutes on the screen?
Yes, please. Thank you. And please, everybody, speed read. Thank you, Jerry. Again, if you see any corrections as you're reading through those, please let us know. Okay, are there any questions on the December 17th minutes?
Jerry, you do really good minutes. I have no edits unless someone else has edits, but if not, I move to approve the minutes for December.
I didn't see any issues either or any changes. This is Esther, and I second the approval of December meeting minutes.
Thank you. Okay, motions are on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstain. Motion passed. Thank you. And moving on, we have our January 21st meeting minutes. Again, I just ask you to please speed read through these. Jerry, I do have one correction on that. I'm trying to find the correct amount, but the amount for the mailing, I think you're right there on it. It's number 4. Needs to be a corrected amount. It did cost a little more than 63 cents. I'm trying to find where it is. Okay, the corrected amount was $6.96. That was for mailing out the scholarship certificates, and then it was a $10 receipt for the Arizona Corporate Commission. So mail payment was for the student scholarship certificates. And the $10 was for the Arizona Commission. And that's the only correction that I see on there. The $10 was just a payment. It wasn't a mail payment. I have no further corrections. Okay. If there are no further corrections, could I call for a vote to approve the minutes for for January 21st?
This is Lynn. I make a motion to approve the minutes for January.
Thank you, Lynn. Is there a second?
This is Esther. I'll second the motion. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Okay, motions are on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign, abstain, same sign. Motion passed. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We really appreciate your patience with us through that. We are trying to get the minutes out at an earlier time. It's just been really busy for all of us within our AIEA organization, but we appreciate your time and patience with us during that time. So with that, we'll move on our agenda, which is the president's report. If you'll bear with me just a few minutes, I do just have a few announcements I would like to acknowledge and to update our membership on. First off, I would like to say congratulations. I don't see that Winona is on the call or anyone from MCC, but I just want to give a verbal congratulations. We did send out a meeting notice, congratulations notice to her. She is the new interim dean of student affairs at Chandler Gilbert Community College. And so we send a big congratulations to her. She was recently named the interim dean, I think just a few weeks ago. And the exciting part about it is that she's the first Native American to serve in a senior leadership role within the Maricopa Community Colleges. And so congratulations to Winona and for being a part of AIEA. It's always great to see Indigenous leaders in the leadership roles and setting that role model for all of our Indigenous students to see, and the great work that she continues to do for the Native community and Maricopa Community College. So congratulations again to Winona Theron. Secondly, it's just the Arizona Johnson O'Malley Quarterly Forum. I did mention this at our last meeting. I just want to mention again, we did have our virtual kickoff at the end of the month, January 27th. It was an overall great meeting. For those who had attended, we had representation from the Bureau of Indian Education, who oversees the Johnson O'Malley programming, and Mr. Spike Bighorn from the DC office. And we also had Kimberly Beckwith, who is our regional representative for our area here in Arizona. There were a lot of questions that were asked. There were a lot of questions that were answered. So we're still seeking a few answers, but bear with us and we'll get that out to our JOM contractors. But this is a quarterly forum that we will be having. The purpose of the forum is for all JOM contractors in Arizona to unite and discuss any challenges with JOM, gain guidance, and share best practices. At this forum, we will also discuss the student count process. That was actually a lengthy conversation we had during that time. We're talking about training needs, as well as sharing ideas for more effective management of the Johnson O'Malley programs themselves. Collectively, this forum will be able to document the support needs for all of Arizona and with the National Johnson O'Malley Association and also with the Bureau of Indian Education. This forum will also provide an opportunity to collaborate in creating a united, consistent, and support structure for Arizona Indigenous students. Again, this is being held quarterly. The next meeting will be held April 28th, and the next two meetings will be July 28th and October 27th. For those of you who do receive JOM funding, you will be receiving the updates on this forum. It's every fourth Thursday, every quarter from 9 to 12. And again, we'll be sending out reminders during that time. Next, we have the Alice. I did want to mention the Alice Spotted Bear and Walter Sobolev Commission on Native Children. This is a commission that was established by Congress as an independent federal entity charged with conducting a comprehensive study of federal, state, local, and tribal programs and developing recommendations on solutions that would improve the health, safety, and well-being of Native children. Our very own Esther was supposed to be on the panel. When it originally happened, I think 2 years ago, but due to the COVID and what took place, they ended up putting it off and postponing the report. So they are reestablishing this commission and moving forward with their original plans of these listening sessions. And so the Southwest region, the Southwest and Western regional hearing is scheduled to be held simultaneously in person and virtually at the following dates and times. So February 24th will be public comment from 5 to 8. February 25th is expert panels. The public is invited to attend and listen in on that day. That would be from 9 to 5. So that's an all-day event. And then finally on February 26th is the public comment from 10 to 1 p.m. I will drop those registration links in the chat for those of you who would like to sign up and participate and listen in. There's various topics that will be shared during those hearings. And if you're able to speak out on public comment, even if it's just a statement in writing, please do so. And we encourage you to be a part of that. Again, that's the Alice Spotted Bear and Walter Sobolev Commission on Native Children. I'm probably saying Walter's name wrong, but I'm doing the how I think it's stated. Next, yes.
Can I add something really quick?
Sure.
So I was contacted by one of the organizers of the commission, and she was actually asking for a Native representative, well, not a representative, but a behavioral health specialist that works with tribes and working with urban Indian organizations as well. They are looking for a behavioral health specialist during the event. I can send more information about the responsibilities that they're looking for, but they are really sort of in a time crunch. And if anyone has sort of any contacts with the behavioral health specialist that works with tribes and urban Indians, please just let me know, and then I can post a little bit of information in the chat box.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. And again, Jerry will drop her contact information in the chat box for those who may know of somebody who might be interested in this. All right. Let me get to my notes here. Okay. Next on, I wanted to talk about was the Indian boarding schools. As you know, and we've mentioned it in previous meetings of the national, at the national level, they started an investigation into the Indian boarding schools. Just recently, there was an article that came out just this week where our own state, for the state of Arizona, is wanting to pursue an investigation into Indian boarding schools within our state. Let me get to this. So Arizona House Democrats have signed onto a bill asking the Department of Interior to take a closer look at former Indian boarding school grounds in their state. The bill, sponsored by Representative Jennifer Germain, notes that Arizona has been home to the second most Indian boarding school facilities in the nation at 51, second only to Oklahoma at 83. These boarding school numbers are based on preliminary research conducted over the past 10 years by the Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition. If you're not aware, Deborah Parker was just recently named the Chief Executive Officer, I believe, over that the National Boarding School Healing Coalition. And so she's been a strong advocate for a lot of Indigenous issues, specifically for the VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women's Act, and many other issues, including the missing and Indigenous women. Representatives from the coalition say that the Department of the Interior's Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative is likely to find more schools, and with that, more cemeteries holding children's remains. The primary goal of the initiative, announced in June by Secretary Deb Haaland, in an effort to shed light on the dark history of the Indian boarding school system, is to identify boarding school sites, the location of known and possible student barrier sites located at or near school facilities, and the identities and tribal affiliations of children interred at such locations. This report is due to be released in April. I will drop if you want to read more about that, here is a link to the article, and you can read more about that. And we just encourage you to keep apprised of that particular issue. I know that it's a part of our dark history, a part of America's dark history, but it is something that does need to be known and shared out and learned about. And so again, to read more information about that, I did drop the link in the chat box. And then I wanted to just again reiterate the Native Knowledge 360 Teacher Workshop Series that is happening. They've already had 2 sessions, and there is going to be a 3rd session that will take place. These teacher workshop series is a great opportunity to gain Native American knowledge for teachers and those interested in participating. Workshops are sponsored by the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian with support from the Smithsonian American Women's History Initiative. It was a 3-part series, as I mentioned, 2 have already taken place that happened January 20th and just recently yesterday, February 17th. The final will happen on March 3rd, and I will drop that in the chat for those who may be interested in signing up for that. And this series is highlighting Indigenous women, artists and activists. It is virtual, it is by Zoom. And if you have time, I encourage you to join in and listen in. I was able to listen in on the first session, which was America Meredith, who is Cherokee. It was really entertaining. She's an artist who draws and also paints, and it was very enlightening for that. So I encourage you, if you have time, to register for the final session that they have, highlighting our Indigenous women artists and activists. And finally, I just wanted to highlight, we have tons of student resources that we compiled together. Jerry compiled a whole lot of student scholarships and student opportunities, and she will share that out when we get during this meeting, if you don't mind, Jerry. And then we will also send it out in a follow-up email for those who may not be able to be in this meeting today. But I did want to highlight at least one of the scholarships, which is the Cobell Scholarship. Again, this opened up. The deadline is March 31st. If you know of any students who are interested in applying, which we hope they all are, please share this information with them. Again, we will send that out in a AIEA announcements and updates with the tons of student scholarships that are available to all of our students. That was for the undergraduate and graduate level deadline. They do have a summer deadline, which is May 4th, as well as the graduate research fellowship opportunity. And that will be from September 1st. And the deadline for that has already passed. So that was January 10th. So the remaining is just for the undergraduate, graduate level, and the summer school opportunity, summer school scholarship opportunity. And so with that, we encourage you to visit our AIEA website and our social media And I will drop our contact information in the chat to keep updated on what we do in AIEA. And we appreciate you being here once again. And so with that, that is all that I have as far as any updates for the president's report. Are there any questions? Okay, if there are none, then we can, oh, I did want to highlight just a couple of upcoming conferences for this year. Jerry, if you can go to the next slide. And Joaquin, feel free to elaborate on NIEA. But NIEA will happen October 5th through the 8th of this year. That will take place in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And if there's any further information on that, Joaquin, please share with us. The National Johnson O'Malley Association Conference will take place September 19th through the 21st. That will be in Las Vegas, Nevada. The conference information is up on the National Johnson O'Malley website. So I encourage you to look at that. If you plan on attending or have any parents or staff that would be interested in attending, please look at that conference information. With that, it will also be in the announcements that we're going to be sending out. They put out scholarship opportunities. There's going to be 4 scholarships that the National Johnson O'Malley will provide. Last year, and I don't know if I had mentioned this during the last meeting, but they had 4 scholarships and they didn't have any students from the Southwest region that applied. And so I encourage you to get the word out to the students that this opportunity is out there. It's a fairly simple scholarship application that they submit and have that opportunity to receive some scholarship money for their education. So again, that will come out in our announcements, as well as the art contest that they're doing. Students, it's a student art contest. I believe the deadline is in May, and the student that wins, their art will be featured on the cover for the national conference. And so I know we have a lot of talented artists out there with a lot of our students. So I encourage you to help us promote that and get their submissions in for that as well. And so with that, if there are no questions, then we can move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our treasurer's report, I believe. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Travis.
You can, and thanks everyone for joining this meeting. What I always like to provide is just some background around the history of the Arizona Indian Education Association. It started back in the late 70s when parents within the Phoenix area were concerned about the availability of Johnson O'Malley funding being distributed to their school districts so that they can get that type of support. And the parents at that time realized that it was important that they gather together to talk about other Indian education issues. And it was really funny. I was in the office the other day and found some meeting minutes. It used to be called the Greater Valley Phoenix Parent Indian Education Committee or something like that. And Teresa Price, surprisingly, was one of the original founders of that organization when it was organized in the 80s. And so she has a lot of historical knowledge of this organization. But later then did turn to the Arizona Indian Education Association, inspired by the National Indian Education Association. And in 2003, it was finally incorporated as a nonprofit 501c3 organization. And the 3 purposes of the organization was the parent conference, a youth conference, and professional development. And we've been doing that for a number of years. There was some non-activity for a couple of years, and there was discussion about dissolving the organization, but there are still some Indian educators out there, including yourselves, that felt that this organization was still important, but they felt that they needed to have a fiscal agent to support them. And in our Tribal Council of Arizona decided to and with the approval of AIEA members to be their fiscal agent. So we have 3 accounts with AIEA. We have the original account, which was Desert Financial. We have an ITCA account, and we have a Venmo account. So I'll be providing a report on all 3 of those. So with our Desert Financial account, we have in our checking $3,263.61. In our savings, we have $35,615.54. In January, we paid Kevin Bellin $75 for his participation in our Protecting Our Land winter camp of 2022. And then we also paid Kenneth Harvey Jr. $100 for the winter camp as well. The Venmo account was set up so that we could support the fundraising efforts that we were doing along the educators awards banquet, and all that money was transferred to our Desert Financial checking account. So there's a balance of 0 in our Venmo account. And then for our ITCA account, there was no activity in the month of January. So currently right now, we have total expenses of $47,421.84, total revenue of $18,570.37, with a deficit of $28,851.47. And again, as ITCA being the fiscal agent, we are carrying that deficit. But there doesn't need to be a concern of the organization around ITCA carrying that deficit. And that concludes my treasurer's report.
Thank you, Travis. I did have just the one minor correction for Kevin Bellin. He was actually one of our storytellers. So he did not, wasn't for the winter camp, it was for the storytelling.
Oh,
yeah.
I wrote the memo out on the check for the winter camp.
That's okay. Yeah, he was actually our first storyteller that we had. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that correction.
Yes, thank you, Travis. And as always, AIEA greatly appreciates ITCA for covering us financially and for also being our fiscal agent through these till we get established and up on our feet. But we sincerely appreciate all the work and efforts that ITCA puts forth in keeping us in balance. So are there any questions for Travis? All right, if there are none, we can move on in the agenda. And I did have Lynanne up there. I was thinking that ADE wasn't going to be present, so I just wanted her to provide an update. But I do see that Sami is on the line. So Sami, if you don't mind just providing the update for ADE, it would be appreciated.
Good afternoon, everybody. Trying to get all the right buttons. Thanks for sharing all the information. I think there's a lot going on across the state and the nation. Kimberly does a wonderful job of making sure that she touches on quite a few areas. So thank you for that, was informational. We are in the Arizona legislative season. I'll start with policy, and I don't have a lot for OIE. I know that they did reach out and talk to Kimberly and let you know that they didn't have too many updates, but I'll touch on a few things. For policy, we're continuing into legislative season. We're almost finished with one sector, and I think next week is the last week to hear any of the bills for the Senate. So we'll move over to the House. We are continuing with the pilot program. I don't think I've really shared a ton of information about this, but it is a pilot project in year 1, comprehensive systems of support. And we are working with 7 LEAs that are public schools on tribal lands, and they are part of a community of practice or a cohort. And next week, we will have a gathering. It's our second in-person convening. Really work hard to make sure that everybody is safe and socially distanced, that we have an appropriate place to host these meetings, and that gets challenging. So we split it up over 2 days. So we'll be doing an in-person facilitated session the 24th and the 25th with a partner with Helios Education Foundation. We'll be looking at some data, and it's going to be a unique experience if you've never if you haven't been able to take a look. Helios Education Foundation has a center called the Decision Theater, and they display data in a very unique way that looks at not just academic data, but influences of, you know, your communities, whether that's economics or financial standing. Like there's a lot of different areas, and we got a demo a couple of weeks ago. So we're excited to see how our partner LEAs are going to take a look at their own data and see how that influences decision making, but also a culturally responsive, localized approach to you know, making sure that our students and our families within their own home communities are successful. So that's one item coming up next week. Today we have a TED Connect, and I think I shared previously in the fall, we had reached out to tribal education departments, trying to, you know, schedule time and hear a little bit more from TEDs, whether that's the directors or program staff, about what their current needs were, learning more about how they pivoted and responded to COVID over the last 2 years. And ultimately, you know, we just want it to be a listening ear. And what we have learned a little bit is when Arizona Department of Education tends to engage with partners, people want to know, like, why are you calling us, or what did we do, or are you going to come and tell us that we have to implement something? And so we start out at the very beginning, just letting them know we're here to listen. We really want to know what's working for you, what needs strengthening, and how we can continue to be a partner and a resource. And that takes time, you know, when largely ADE has been more of an intervener and working at, I don't want to say anything in a negative context, but, you know, it's more around school improvement or areas of focus like title programs. And really that's not what we want to do. We want to establish a healthy partnership and really truly understand what's happening in the tribal education departments that we can also provide support for. So we had 3 in the fall, and today we'll have another one. I think we have 7 registered participants. That includes some of our OIE staff. So look forward to seeing how this continues and maintaining these types of opportunities for our tribal education departments. I think Kimberly already spoke to this, but HCM 2003, which was the concurrent memorial, which was unanimously supported in the legislature. And it's just urging investigation for Arizona Indian boarding schools. And it supports that movement of investigating in Arizona 51 total boarding schools within the state. So there was unanimous support in the legislature for that. And I think at their level, we'll hear a little bit more of how they plan to continue to support those, I don't want to say issues, because I think this is a historical piece that has been waiting to, you know, get some attention and some support for that. So we'll see how that continues. I do have a link and I'll drop it after. I can, that way you can take a look at it and see what went through. We have HB 2808, and if you have any thoughts around this, happy to hear that or make time for you. The title is called Schools Operations Improvements, and this is moving through the legislature right now, and there are implications for the school accountability system that concerns ADE, and so I believe we have signed in a post, and if there are amendments, we haven't seen those yet, but if you take a look at it, I'll also drop that in the chat later. HB 2808, and largely it's asking for changes or different ways of looking at the state accountability system, the letter A to F letter grade system. But I would mostly prefer if you took a look at it and talked about it in your own organizations or programs. And if you had any thoughts about it or concerns or areas that you see that need to be strengthened, we would prefer to hear that feedback from you. Okay. This week, in a little over 7 days, we'll have the next policy and program updates for Indigenous stakeholders. And we're happy to say that we made it through a year of doing PNP updates. So that's pretty awesome. I think we've kind of lived and learned around, what works and what doesn't and what needs to go out to the field, and constantly tried to have conversations within the agency to learn more about what's most supportive to schools. So on February 28th, we will have the PMP, and we'll be focused on policy updates, educator resources, certification unit updates. We'll have someone on from certification that will answer some questions that have both come into OIE, but also to our constituent services. Brooke worked to coordinate the questions that were coming in, and we had a meeting with certification to make sure that we give you as much information as possible. We know that some of the challenges across not just the state, but the nation are filling positions in schools, all the way, from transportation to school leadership. And so we want to make sure that we're providing opportunities to share resources with you. We will have Helen Thomas share out on some educator resources within the state. And then also U of A's ITEP program, the Indigenous Teacher Educator program, will be on for just to give some information. I think Dana's on today. So they'll be on to share a little bit of their updates, their recruitment efforts, and then also introduce some of their new staff. So we're looking forward to that. Please share with your networks if you are on our listserv. You do need to register for that to get the link. I think we've just changed a little bit of security measures for within ADE to make sure that people are signing on first name, last name, and just protecting everybody while we have these public share outs. So if you have any questions, definitely let us know, and I'll also drop that flyer in the chat after this. Superintendent's State of Education address was on February 8th, and she focused largely on the aggregate expenditure limit, advocating for a fix within the legislature that would allow all LEAs to have access to funding that's already been appropriated to public education. And so you've probably seen a lot of our messaging, whether it's on social media or news outlets, news publications, that this is a high priority for the superintendent, Kathy Hoffman, to make sure that our public schools are afforded that opportunity to utilize all the funding that's been appropriated to them. We're hopeful, so just continue to advocate and be supportive of that. I wanted to share one of the items that it's pretty small. Right now, we've only met with 2 LEAs, providing support for crisis response planning. And that's not a title, it's just kind of what we're doing. We came across this in a way that we were being supportive of one LEA that was having challenges with bullying and other areas across their school district. And so Lindsay Shoup works with Project Aware within ADE, and then she looped in Arizona Blue Cross Blue Shield Tribal Liaison Holly Figueroa. If you've worked with her before, very knowledgeable, resourceful lady out in Flagstaff. And so what manifested from that is the two parties, so ADE and Blue Cross, went through Holly, learning a little bit more about what each of us can offer, and met with 2 LEAs so far to share, I guess, building an awareness of working with tribal partners. Holly has a wealth of experience and resources to offer in training offer in training in crisis response, emergency planning, and that can be also natural disasters. It doesn't have to necessarily be human sort of crisis, but natural disasters, they're very helpful in that sector. Suicide prevention for youth, she offers training. And quite a bit more. Once you get her talking, she just kind of goes off about all of the things that she offers and is an amazing resource. And so that's where we connected. And Lindsay's offering access to some resources within ADE that support building adult and youth awareness through a virtual platform where you can, it's called Cognito, and Cognito with a K. And so basically, an adult learner or a youth learner could go through these video presentations and learn different scenarios of crisis response and what the appropriate way might be. We never want to put adults or youth in situations where they're not able to respond or give them too heavy a responsibility, but it sort of walks you through. And I haven't actually personally gone through it, just kind of heard through Lindsay and Holly some of these experiences, but it teaches both adults and youth to learn about a scenario and then what do I do in this situation? Who do I call or who do I redirect it to? I think that is probably sometimes one of the biggest things that you learn as an educator. I was always in the classroom, and then as a school administrator, there are things that pop up that you never expect or anticipate to happen. So this is a helpful resource. So far, like I said, we've met with 2 LEAs, and Lindsay and I plan to touch base and see if there are other LEAs that would benefit from the same resources. So happy to offer that connection if any of you feel like you know any districts that might need that support, or you're looking to develop yourself in those areas as well. And then lastly, I'll share about the OIE updates. Just 2 areas, the strategic plan. I think staff internally continue to work to develop connections to all the core service areas and the feedback and the input that was received from stakeholders, both internal and external, about the Office of Indian Education. And so we hope once the position is filled, the Deputy Associate Superintendent, that our staff can continue to move forward and get all of these exceptional resources out. I think they're just not laying low, but they're anticipating, bringing someone on so that they can continue to have that leadership and move all of these items forward. So I'm looking forward to that. And then Helen Thomas, she's developing or working to develop professional development opportunities that are both culturally responsive, including early conversations. Right now, ADE is in early conversations. The oversight for OIE right now is the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Unit. And so with that part, that partnership within the unit, they're working also with WestEd. So making items not just culturally responsive, but evidence-based practices that are sure to be successful in any setting that we share these resources with. So those are 2 areas for OIE. Anybody have any questions for me?
Thanks for your update. Just wanted to share when the Adam Walsh Act was passed in the late 2000s, I did some research around the background of the sex offender registry. And the research that I found was that at the time he was a House of Representative Congressman John McCain came upon stories about a certain tribe, and I want to name that certain tribe, that there was a teacher at a boarding school at a certain tribe where it's estimated in this report that he had molested over 100 young boys and young girls at this boarding school. And the parents were hearing about these stories, and they were complaining to the principal about this particular teacher. He was never fired. He was never prosecuted. All he was just transferred to a different boarding school. And none of those claims of the sex offender acts that he did ever came to justice. And when John McCain, as a congressman, found that out, he was the original sponsor of a bill to require that the Bureau of Indian Affairs do background checks around teachers for BIA. It was called BIA at the time. And then it later became the sex offender registry list in the 90s, and then it was updated with the Adam Walsh Act in the late 2000s. So there's probably some very dark stories we're going to hear around this research or report that's going to happen or occurring in Arizona, because the Bureau of Indian Affairs didn't necessarily have a history of prosecuting or firing or doing anything other than just moving these teachers to different agencies throughout the United States. And and I don't want to name the tribes that are, or the tribes that these things have occurred, unless the tribe wants to talk about these types of incidences. But I do want to acknowledge Congressman John McCain, or Senator McCain, for his love for Native children, and that he was one of the original people to actually do something about what was happening with boarding schools in the 80s, at least in the 80s and 90s that had happened.
Thank you, Travis. I do have experience in the Bureau of Indian Education, and so want to reassure this forum that there are significant measures in place now. One of them includes it's called BIE Scan, SCAN. It is a report, like all educators, we're mandatory reporters, right? And we have protocols to follow. So BIE has implemented that. I think Michelle Justice was the BIE person at the time who helped develop that, and now she runs her own business to help support background investigations and is very thorough. But just kind of want to say that part. That's my knowledge of BIE Scan, and I am very familiar with the history. I think that has become part of their training process. Every year in BIE in particular, they go through the scan training, and it's intensive. I think there are, I don't know how many of us hold an Arizona certificate, but it is part of our responsibility as educators certified in the state of Arizona to be mandatory reporters. So thank you for sharing that, Travis. I wholeheartedly believe, this is going to stir like it has over the past couple of years with the national plights of, it's a hard topic to talk about, but I think it is going to continue to be an area that we heal from. And so looking forward to ways that we can partner as agencies, organizations, and individuals within our own communities around this area. So thank you again, Travis. Esther, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Sami, can we email you in regards of receiving information about the emergency planning?
Yes, would love to have a conversation and put you in contact with both Lindsay and Holly so that they can share a little bit more about their efforts. Holly is super resourceful and willing to travel to areas to be supportive of that, but she could also put you in touch with the local, what's called TRBHA, in the health sector, they call it TRIBUS, Tribal Regional Behavioral Health Authorities. And so one of the ways that we appreciated her being involved with this activity right now is that the tribal regions that she is a part of, she is actually one of the conduits of really understanding what partnerships have to be in place, what memorandums of agreement or understanding that have to be in place with tribes in order to make this a smoother process. And so one of the areas that I forgot to mention is sometimes in public schools on tribal lands where they're very rural and remote, we don't have some of the same healthcare systems. We don't have some of the access to crisis response teams that urban areas might have. And so that is one component that they're able to support and foster within. In particular, we were thinking about one LEA that was very remote. They could dispatch a mobile unit within 24 hours to be there. And not to say it would take them 24 hours, but once they got all the information, made sure that all of those pieces were in place with MOAs, MOUs, they could dispatch a team within hours. Yeah, and be supportive of not just the community, but the school community, staff, students, families. So yes, Esther, we're very happy to connect you. Just send me an email and let me know that you're requesting that so I can put you in contact with them.
That's wonderful information to know about. That's available to us, all school districts. If you can put in your email in the chat, that would be great. I can have it. Thank you.
Oh, anybody else have a question or any thoughts for me? I appreciate your time, and I'm so sorry I took up so much of it. Go ahead, Kimberly.
That's okay. This is good information. That's what these meetings are for. And when we have the educators together, it's a lot of great resourceful information that's shared out. So thank you, Sami, for sharing out those all the updates. So you guys did have quite a few updates. So it was really nice to hear that. And as always, we appreciate you being a part of AIEA meetings and sharing those times out. I did want to comment on the certification information that you were speaking on. I know that our organization, AIEA, and this is something that we've talked about in our executive meetings for AIEA about the certification for our professional development workshops that we sometimes have. We haven't had any lately over the past several months, but we are looking at starting those back up again. But I know that I think when Serena had first came on board, that she had sent some information about certification that ADE would acknowledge on any of our professional development workshops that we provide in order for AIEA to provide those credit hours to our professionals, because I know that's something that they do need to continue in their certification as teachers and educators. And so I'll email you and touch base with you on that to see on the policy side, if there's anything, what we can do to make that happen and to make that resource available for our educators that are a part of AIEA membership. So,
Kim, may I add?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. And then for those who are educators, those are called ECU hours or for PD hours, and those get collected within the amount of time they have to have 15 hours per year to recertify their teaching certificate. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. The individual that is going to be on is the certification director. And so I'm sure she could definitely add that in. So once you send me that email, Kimberly, I'll shoot it over to her and then see if she can't make that part of the time between now and then, if she might have an answer for you. Otherwise, it'll be something that she can work to get an answer for.
Sounds great. Thank you, Sami. We appreciate that.
Thanks, everybody. I just FYI, I will jump off. I have to get ready for that next meeting, but thank you guys for your time and opportunity.
All right. Thank you again, Sami. Take care. Have a good one. All right. If there's any questions, Sami did drop her email in the chat box, so feel free to contact her for any further questions you may have. With that, we will move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the update from the National Indian Education Association. So at this time, I am going to turn it over to Joaquin.
Thank you, Kim. So first, I just wanted to start by seeing if anybody knew or could recommend a Navajo language speaker who might be interested in putting together some lessons for NIEA. I'll drop my email. Just send me an email if you do know of anybody. NIEA is working with Gallup-McKinley County Schools to put together some lessons for Navajo language. It's all virtual, so it'll be on a virtual platform. So there is going to be a bit of a requirement for some technical know-how to put together slides, to record audio, things like that. It's completely, everything can be done remote. NIEA can send the resources, the equipment needed to do these things, like send microphones. But if anybody knows of a Navajo language speaker, we are looking to find somebody to put together those lesson plans. So outside of that, I think Kim already gave us NIEA a shout out for our upcoming 2022 convention. So what we're thinking is launching an actual sovereignty and education type push, and where NIEA's kind of direction is going to be as a, not just for the year and for the convention, but across the board, the entire organization is trying to pivot towards focusing more on sovereignty and education. So some of that might be doing a little bit more work with tribally controlled schools, but that's the direction we're looking to go at. And so a lot of the messaging you probably be seeing from us in the next couple of months will be really to push out that, to emphasize that. The other thing, we actually have a position open at NIEA, in case you knew of anybody. It is a DC based position for the Tribal Education Policy Associate. So somebody is probably going to be working a lot more with the Bureau of Indian Education. If you know anybody who might be interested in that position, you know anyone in DC or who might be willing to move to DC, that is currently available. And then, of course, next month we have our Hill Week. So here we go. Oh, thank you, Kim. I'll make sure to copy that, to grab that before I leave. Here is a just a link to our Hill Week. The last day for our room block is today, but our registration for the actual event stays open until March 7th. Unfortunately, I will not be in Hill Week. If you do decide to go, I will be doing some other travel to support some of our grants at NIEA. So unfortunately, if anybody does decide to go from AIEA, I will not be there. So on the federal level, the Competes Act was passed by Representative Grijalva. So he is from Arizona, and an amendment that Representative Grijalva was able to attach to that was to create the Office of Education Technology in the BIE. So that's good news. The office is supposed to provide technical support for and resources for online kind of distance learning technology, things around that alley, just to support Indian students across the nation. And for the first time ever, the U.S. Department of Labor included American Indian and Alaskan Natives in its monthly job report. So there's probably a lot of really great data. You can capture that to look at, especially through the lens of education. So that's something we're really excited about, because that was some information that us as a national organization was looking for, and also just for, I know a lot of other Indian organizations are always looking for that type of data to support a lot of the work that they're doing. On the state level, the kind of associated with what's going on in Arizona with boarding schools, Wisconsin is actually trying to introduce a bill to have in the state history of Indian boarding schools be placed into their social studies standards. So it's something that's going through the Board of Education, trying to make a requirement for those standards to be a part of that social studies curriculum. Two other states that are kind of popping off right now is South Dakota. Unfortunately, for South Dakota, it's kind of more in a negative type of way. As you know, I had been following what's been going on with their social studies standards and their removal of Native references in those. So kind of along those lines, there's been a number of defeats in South Dakota for having a requirement for social studies standards to re-include those Native references, for having honor songs during graduation, and for the removal of names that are offensive to Native groups. Fortunately, there have been some victories. We are expecting to see a vote on tribal regalia. So we're expecting that full vote. It did pass committee. And then in New Mexico, our neighbor, there were a number of bills that were passed. I think the headline was a bill that increased the pay of tribally certified language teachers working in state schools, to increase their pay because they weren't state certified. In some cases, it would double or triple their salary. So that did pass. And then a number of bills related to their Yazi Martinez case passed. And the most significant of that was support for K through 12. Additional funding for the tribal education departments. I've heard about 35 million passed for those, for the tribes in New Mexico, along with a tripling of their Indian education fund to 15 million. So those are some pretty significant victories. And outside of that, of course, we're seeing some new language pop up around the critical race theory discussion, not necessarily related directly to what should be required or mandated in curriculum, but rather that curriculum in states, I believe in Arizona as well, this is being proposed, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, that there is more transparency in what curriculum teachers are teaching in schools, and for that that curriculum to be available to the public. So we're taking a look at that, trying to see if there's anything particularly that might cause, again, more difficulties, more confusion for Native educators who may already be feeling the pressure to teach content a certain way or teach specific curriculum. But that's just another trend that we're seeing emerge, just to be aware of. And so I believe that is all I have for this month.
All right, thank you, Joaquin. You always provide fantastic updates also on a national level. So we thank you and appreciate you being a part of our AIEA meetings to share that information out among our membership. A lot going on across the nation. I try and pull, some highlights, but there's so many other issues and legislation and policies that are out there that we can talk about it for quite some time. And the advocacy that your organization does in AIEA, as well as all of our Native organizations who advocate on behalf of our students, there's so much support that we can provide to each other, and making sure that these legislations and our student voice, and even from our parents, are heard in a lot of these issues that are trickling down to affecting our students in school and in education. So thank you for providing all those updates across the board in the many states. We see that it's happening in South Dakota. I don't know what's going on with them. I kind of keep updated on what's happening up there. Of course, I'm always real big about implementing Native history into the curriculum at every level, as well as the critical race theory discussion. I know that we've talked about that plenty of times within this organization here as well. And so thank you again, Joaquin, for sharing those updates. And I did see that there's plenty of, or there's quite a few Navajo language speaker recommendations in the chat. So if you just want to pull those up and make sure that you save those. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. We can provide that information to you as well. So thank you, everybody, for providing that to Joaquin. And are there any questions or any comments or anything you would like to speak out on what Joaquin had mentioned? All right, I don't see any hands up, and so we'll move on. Again, thank you, Joaquin, for joining us for those updates, and definitely will keep us posted. We'll be promoting the conference, upcoming conference as well. So thank you for that. All right, so moving on with our old business we have, and we're going to try and quickly get through this because I do want to provide some time for program share outs. For those of you who may have events or flyers that you would like to share with us, please feel free to drop those in the chat box if you have flyers, so that way we can at least pull those out and have those available in case we don't get to that part for you in this meeting. So with that, we have our old business of our Winter Youth Leadership Camp, which took place in last month, after a postponement. We actually finally had it, but it was a really encouraging camp that we had. It took place January 21st to the 23rd. It was in a virtual format that we had. Each day we had 3 days of activities. Each day was for a half day. The first day was for Friday evening, where we had Freddie Johnson, who was our elder for that day, provided the coyote stories to our students, which always have a moral or a teaching along with those stories that are taught. And so we had a very attentive audience during that time, and the students always enjoy hearing the coyote stories. So thank you, Esther, for providing that contact for our Winter Youth Camp during that time. We also had, that was Friday evening, and then for Saturday, we had our half-day activities, and where we had our mentors who were available to provide that mentoring for our students at this year's camp was actually invited by Linan. So thank you, Linan, for bringing those mentors on board who were Unity ambassadors. And they did a fantastic job of providing encouraging words to all the students who participated in our camp. And just a FYI, Jonathan, I can't remember his last name or how to say it correctly. Linan, if you know, please share. But he is also the president on a national level with the NCAI, their youth commission, or co-president, I believe, or maybe he's a vice president, but he's one of the leading officers. And if you missed the State of the Indian Nations address, which took place this past Monday, we also posted it on our social media Facebook site, but he was one of the youth leaders who on a national level provided, insight and feedback from a student perspective. And so we are very honored and fortunate that he was a part of our Winter Youth Camp. So our students really got a wide range and a vast experience from these leaders, and they're at their age to where they can be these role models for our students who do participate in these winter camps. And the camps that we have are very unique and very cultural centered, because we do want to provide that connection, that cultural connection for all of our students that participate in the camp. And so I just wanted to mention that about the mentors we had. We had 2 college students and 1 high school student, but he ranged up there with the college level and mentality and the maturity of how he encouraged and provided that the words of advice for those students during the entire camp days. As mentioned, we also had our elders. We had 2 elders we had elders from the Dene culture and also the Tana Atham. We had Lois Liston, who provided encouraging words of advice, and according to the Saguaro harvest that they have every year for the Tohono O'odham. And she showed us a video of what that looked like. We also shared that out on our social media site, on our Facebook site. We had Niona Smith, who provided the presentation for our second day. She actually did a booklet that was provided through NARCE, the Native American Cancer Research Center here at the University of Arizona. She collaborated with the NARCE and created this booklet, and it was about plants specifically for her people, as well as the different type of herbs in her language, in the Tohono O'odham language, and the uses, the traditional uses that are utilized as medicinal plants for that. So it was a really intriguing presentation that she provided for our students on the second day. And so we're, again, just very fortunate that we had these presenters and the elders that were part of us, a part of our camp during that time. The third day we had Elder Kenneth Harvey, who provided information about what it was like for the teachings of being in the Dene culture. And he really shared a lot of teachings of what it meant to be and how he grew up and the teachings that he was provided and he shared out with our students. And so it was a really good presentation that he provided as well. We also had Charlie and Marie Salt, who are also Navajo. They provided the philosophy about the corn stalk to our students. And so overall, it was just a wonderful winter camp that we held for our students. We had a lot of positive feedback from the students that participated, as well as our presenters and our elders that were there. And so that just wanted to highlight a little bit about our winter camp. Jerry, I don't know if you want to add anything more to that.
Yes, so I just wanted to add a little bit of information that we are planning to move on to the summer youth camp now. So we're sort of wanting to do the planning phase, and we want to do a call for camp committee members. Basically, you're going to help us with organizing the virtual youth camp. That just means attending like bi-monthly meetings. So like every other week, we would just meet and for 1 hour meetings to discuss like coordinating presenters and volunteers. But basically, most of the time we will be exchanging ideas and contacts, recommended contacts for any of the activities that we're planning. We do plan for tribal partnerships. If we decided to do like an in-person, we would want to plan for a venue, also presenters for activities, and then thinking about maybe like intern planning. We did have an intern a few years ago, a high school intern, and it worked out very well, and helping to promote the camp on social media. Another thing is we want to have help with outreach to tribal colleges and youth council partners, and to really get this thing promoted and get it out there to the students' hands, and then have help with coordinating student packages. We do take donations for the supplies that we collect for this camp. So we usually do a t-shirt, journals, writing utensils, and then art utensils, like a little small art kit that we have for the students. So if you would like to, please contact me on the slide. That's my information. But if you have any questions about the youth camp, please let me know.
Thank you, Jerry. And I actually did have a slide for that information, which is actually the next slide for that. And so there's all the information of what Jerry just mentioned for our upcoming summer youth camp that we're looking forward to. And so if you want to grab her information on there, as well as Jerry, if you can drop it in the chat box for those who may be interested in joining on the planning committee for the upcoming summer camp. And so with that, we can move on to the next slide. Which is our new, well, first, is there any questions about the summer camps or the winter camp? Okay, if there are none, we'll move on to our membership under new business. I just wanted to really highlight this with our membership is from November 1st to October 31st. That was passed in one of our meetings by our general membership to switch our dates out so that we can accommodate not only our elections date or elections month that we have every October. We do want to ensure that members are a part of AIEA, and to make sure that those who are a part of AIEA have that opportunity to be nominated and elected to these officer positions. And so we just wanted to highlight that it is from November 1st to October 31st of every year. We do have membership dues that are due. So if we are pleading, if you have not paid your membership dues yet, we encourage you to do so. We do have our application online. We do have a website available where we can, we'll drop that information in the chat box as well, of where you can find that application online and complete that form and then mail it back to ITCA for us. And so with that, we do have a membership drive that we do every year where we try and encourage membership to be a part, or encourage membership of AIEA. So we do that every year in July. And this year we'll probably look at August and making that happen. And so I just wanted to highlight that really quickly about the membership, just to remind everybody that we do have membership dues that we pay every year to be a member of AIEA. Again, if you have not paid those dues, please do so as soon as possible. Any questions? Okay, if not, there is some information being dropped in the chat box. Dana, if you want to share anything out before you hop off, I'll allow you that time.
Thank you. Just quickly, again, with the Indigenous Teacher Education Program here at University of Arizona, we're currently recruiting for our fall 2022 class cohort, and I did put some flyers of some recruitment info sessions coming up and what our program can offer for students. And this is for community college transfers to the university and for those that want to complete their bachelor's degree in elementary and early childhood education. And I did put my email address in the chat as well. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you next month. All right, take care. All right. And yes, we can include those flyers in our announcements as well whenever we send out our follow-up email after the meeting for those members who were not able to stay on the call or had to hop off early. So with that, we can move on to the next item on the agenda, which is just our webinar series. I just wanted to, I'll quickly go over this because again, I do want to allow some time for any share outs. We do have our webinar series that's coming up. This is our education webinar series that we started this past month. And it will be posted to our YouTube channel once we get all the recordings edited and uploaded. We will definitely let our membership know when that becomes available. Our first session we had was this past week on Wednesday evening. We are honored that Dr. Amanda Jeremiah, she works here at the University of Arizona as the director for the Native SOAR program. But we are honored that she's available to provide at least 3 presentations during our education series that we have for this. And we are focusing on our student scholarship. All of these topics lead up to the student scholarship that will be released this spring. And it's for our AIEA student scholarship for next year, 2022 and 2023. We do have 2 remaining workshops with Amanda. That will be March 4th on how to write a resume and cover letter, and March 25th on how to write a personal statement. And then our final presentation will be done by our very own Jerry Thomas, who will provide a workshop about the student scholarship itself. We will actually go through the application and step by step on how to get the students to apply and what needs to be added and included in the application itself. We are tentatively looking at another presentation, and we will let the membership know once that becomes confirmed, and we will get that information out and update our flyer if needed. And so Jerry, did you want to add any more to this particular slide?
No, not particularly. We're just very excited to start planning for the scholarship, and this is very essential information for our students. I think part of it is because students, when they approach our scholarship application, some of them are probably new students that are applying, or perhaps repeat students that are going to try to apply again for our scholarship. But ours is a pretty sizable packet that they need to put together. So having this information there for them, we just want to make sure that if you miss the webinars, or if you need to review the webinars again, it will be posted on our YouTube channel, so students can use that. And if anyone has sort of any questions regarding the scholarship or essentials in applying for the scholarship, we will be reverting back to these webinars so that they can have a better idea of what the packet will be looking like. So.
All right. Any questions on this? All right, if there are none, we can move to the next slide. And finally is just our cultural webinar series. I just wanted to highlight that we're hoping this will be a continual series that we have. It initially intertribal storytelling series, but with one of our presenters, you can see the names of those who have presented to date. We are hoping that our fourth presenter will be able to reschedule a time once we have that confirmed, and we will get back with the membership on when that date will be. And hopefully we'll still have time to share out the winter stories for that. But with one of our presenters who provided the storytelling time, really shared out about his thoughts on what storytelling meant and the comparison of what he does. He didn't consider himself a storyteller, and it was really unique in how he stated that with storytelling, that it's something not real, that it's something that like a fable. So he insisted that what he does is cultural sharing. And so we've updated our flyer to be the intertribal cultural shares so that it encompasses, and what he said really made sense because it encompasses of what our Native communities and our Indigenous peoples view and see as our beliefs and our teachings and how we came to be and how things in the world are the way they are, and the reasons behind that. And so it was a unique concept that he shared with us. So in talking with our coordinator, webinar series coordinator, Jerry, we decided to go ahead and go with that title for our continuous series that we have in the future. And so I just wanted to highlight a few of the speakers that we had that took time to present to our community. These will be uploaded on our YouTube website as well. We had Kevin Boleyn, who is of the Dene culture. He's a teacher out in Navajo Prep School, and he provided a lot of stories about the worlds, the four worlds with the Navajo culture and the teachings behind first man, first woman, and the water monsters or the monsters that came about. And so it was really always interesting to hear those stories that are shared. On the 30th, January 30th, we had Fred Rowland, who was from Canada. And again, thank you to Esther for providing that contact. That was a really interactive and fun presentation that he provided. He talked about the traditional uses of cedar for his people out of Vancouver Island in British Columbia. And he even shared techniques with the cedar, the bark from the cedar trees that he utilized in making and creating their regalia, including their hats, their baskets, and the different tools and unique tools that they used in making those creations. And so it was really nice to see from a different culture, or not culture, but just a different tribe, and how they utilize these types of the environment to sustain their livelihood. And so it was a really good presentation that we had with him. And then the last presenter we had was Emerson John, who is also Navajo. He talked about the meaning of honoring life, and his teachings he shared with us about what it meant for him as a Dene person and those teachings that he grew up with. And he talked about also with the cornstalk philosophy that was shared during our winter camp. He talked a little bit more in depth about that during his presentation with us. And our fourth presenter, which is Lerald Panal, he is White Mountain Apache. He's the one that we are hoping that we can reschedule. We did have quite a few that hopped on that unfortunately he probably got the time or date mixed up, and he wasn't able to come on during that time, but we did have a lot of interest. And so we're hoping that we can reschedule him for a final session with that. And so we're looking forward. This is something we would like to continue, even if it's not winter stories. We're hoping that we can start sharing out cultural stories and or cultural shares with our community. So we're in the talks, and once we have dates confirmed, we will definitely share that out with the membership. So I just wanted to talk and highlight a few things on that. Jerry, again, I don't know if you want to add any more to that, or if we can move on.
I think we can move forward.
Any questions? All right, so with that, I believe that was all that we had on our agenda. And so if there's anybody who would like to share any program share outs, feel free to do so.
Hello, Kim, it's Esther. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so this technically isn't a share out, is an update. So from the last meeting, Keep Teachers Teaching Bowling Tournament that has been postponed. So we won't be signing up anybody right now. I know you all were looking forward to that. And then secondly, the Navajo Nation ARPA hardship, and they're providing technical assistance. They're doing a drive right now located at Phoenix Indian Center. It was yesterday and today from 9 to 4 p.m. And that's at the Steele Indian School Memorial Hall, 300 East Indian School Road in Phoenix. So that is today. They're providing the application assistance for the ARPA hardship funds that Navajo Nation is providing. And they're also giving information on how to enroll and receive your CIB. They're not giving CIBs there, but they will assist you in any questions you have about filling out the application to receive a CIB. So that's happening today until 4 p.m. Also, the American Indian Graduate Center, their scholarships are currently available and their applications close on June 1st. And thank you for mentioning the Southwest Regional Alice Spotted Bear and Walter Commission on Native Students. I'm excited and have been working with them, and we'll be speaking on the 25th around 11:45. So I'm looking forward to that. And then for a share out. So recently we had our first meeting, the VNECA, which is the Valley-wide Native Education Coordinator Alliance. I am super excited to be a co-facilitator with that. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I have a co-facilitator from Chandler Unified School District. She's not on here today, but her name is Tia Graminsky. So her and I have decided to create this open space for any educators and for any coordinators who teach Native American students in the Phoenix Valley area. And so we have a total of 16 Native American ed programs in the area, and we had 7 attend our last meeting. So I think that's a wonderful turnout for our first event. Some of the so this meeting followed up a couple days after the Arizona JOM forum. And so that information that was shared there was brought to the meeting where we had additional questions, and one person would have a little more information and chime in with answers and questions. So it was very useful. Some of the areas we talked about was the Johnson O'Malley student eligibility count that's coming up, our capacity building funds, what to do with those, who's using it in a certain way, how is another program using it. So that was great to hear about other programs and what they're doing. Tribal consultations, Navajo Nation requests and needs, like they provide training, sharing an email there about the Manuelito Scholarship. How can our students be involved in that? And what is some areas that we can provide education and information around Manuelito? One of its discussions was, which tribes can provide funding for graduation caps and gowns. That's a need that comes up every year with our students. In my Mesa Public Schools area, it's not as often, but we do have a handful of students who say, can you assist with this? And then we also talked about biliteracy opportunities. So working with the Manuelito Scholarship, language teachers, who's offering Navajo language, Dene Bazad, and then following it up with that biliteracy seal so they can receive that extra credit on their diploma. So I want to invite you all, if you are part of the Valley-wide Native Education system and you're a coordinator or a specialist, whatever the title the district wants to give you. Our next meeting is March 28th from 9:30 to 11 a.m. So please feel free to come and share your knowledge. Secondly, I am Mesa Public Schools Native American Education Program Specialist. We are working on quite a few things. We know graduation is coming up. Lots of celebrations are coming. So we're working on our grad feathers, on beading those pieces. I have one here ready to bead. It's just on my desk. So when I take a break, I bead. But we're working on those. We also know with the House bill that was approved that our students can wear regalia to their graduation. So we want to help promote that. We're providing opportunities to create ribbon shirts and ribbon skirts. We had our first session last night and our room was packed. We RSVP'd for 20 and about 30 showed. So I was really excited, and it was absolute chaos. People were cutting and throwing materials and ribbons, but you know, they're almost finished. So we'll have 4 more sessions like that, and then we're going to start bringing it to the schools, taking the materials to the schools of where our students are, and letting them create their regalia there. So I'm excited for that. Those are the big pieces. You know, we have our celebrations coming up at the end of the year, and I know you are too, and ready to celebrate your students. The school year is coming to an end so quickly, but I'm seeing the smiles, and I'm seeing that some of the students catch up. And then, you know, if you happen to know of any programs that provide GED or school credit recovery, you know, I would love some information. I have a couple, but you know, if you know one that you worked with, I would appreciate if you could put it in the chat there, so I can reach out as well to find out, you know, which program is successful, which program, because we do have students who drop out, who disappear, who go to work, but we want them to encourage them to get their diploma, their GED certificate, so they can, you know, always have that piece underneath them that they did graduate and it wasn't just a dropout situation. Well, that's all I have for now, but I have lots of going on, and if you have any questions, you're welcome to always contact me. We have our Native American Honor Society induction coming up, and it's catching on. It really is. Our students who have 4.0, we have 47 this year. 4.0s. I'm like, that is so impressive. But Flagstaff, they called, and we're working with Flagstaff. They're starting theirs. I had a phone call from New York that they would like to start a Native Honor Society there as well. So it's catching on. It's a great way to celebrate our students who are tremendous, you know, gifted. But that's catching on. So you guys, thank you for letting me share. I appreciate it. Ahiaha, and talk to you soon.
Wow, that's fantastic, Esther. How
Esther,
exciting. Thank you.
Esther, who was the guy that invented the native? He was from NAU. What was his name?
Dr. Dukapu.
Yeah. Is he still around?
I don't know. That would be awesome to invite him over.
That'd be cool for him to do like a little like webinar, or just say like remind schools that this is a thing, because I remember back in the early 2000s, there was pushback from schools, or at least from the National Honor Society, because they said that the requirements weren't as high, but then actually the Native Honor Society was actually higher than the National Honor Society requirements.
It is, and
Yeah.
I do get flack for that every year. Like, my child is a 3.98, and I'm like, there is the National Honor Society, but we are celebrating our spectacular students who have a 4.0 GPA and above.
Yeah, that'd be cool to maybe invite him, or just promote it, because it's a really cool thing. I mean, I was not an A student in high school, so I did.
I'm not going there. I will, you know, I will. Definitely, I will search him out and see if he's
Yeah,
around.
yeah. No, yeah, he came to an AI meeting years ago promoting his program. I would say it was probably like 2006, 2007. I remember that.
Wow,
Time ago. So
impressive.
it'd be cool to bring him back again if he's still around.
Cool. Thanks, Travis.
Yeah, thank you, Travis. I think that would be awesome if he was a previous presenter or who shared out that program. I think it'd be wonderful to reconnect and to, as you mentioned, just as a reminder that this program is out there for all of our Native students. And so I think if we help promote that, and even more so if we get him to be the one presenting about it, I think it would have a great influence on the educators that come to our meetings. So thank you for sharing that out, and we'll look into that. I think that would be wonderful to try and bring them back and to help promote that during the time. So again, thank you, Esther, for those updates that you shared out. I'm really excited to hear about the that you guys took it back after the National JOM Forum. You know, that's wonderful to hear that there's still discussion and feedback even among the educators. That's specifically what the forum is about, in order to provide and get those wheels turning and get the questions, you know, so that it can be presented and we can get some answers, because we're even looking for answers as well as everybody else across the nation on the National JOM and the funds and the programs and services, what can and can be used for. So that's great to hear that the Valley-wide, can you repeat what that is again?
It's VANECA, Valley-Wide Native Educators Coordinators Alliance. I'll type it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to catch it. But yeah, I think that's wonderful. So kudos to you and Tia for getting that started there in the Valley. I know we have our own little, our Native Education Alliance here in Tucson area. We do a couple of events within the southwest side of the state of Arizona. So I know that we're going to see great things and maybe sister and partner with you guys on bigger events throughout the state too. So great news to hear about that and all the wonderful work you do. I always see, I was really excited to see the ribbon skirt making in the program. And that's just wonderful to hear that so many participants came and wanted to learn about that. So it's great to hear. And it's always wonderful to share out our cultural heritage with our families. So thank you for all that you do and sharing those things out. And so, all right, is there any other updates? I don't know, Lynn, if you had any updates from your program. And she may be in another meeting. I know she's been helping to substitute in her district as well. So, all right, if there are no other, then thank you, Esther, for that contact information. We can go to the next slide. I believe it's just the adjournment. And so again, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning, for taking time to be with us and sharing out a lot of information that was shared out today. So thank you for your patience and for being here with us. Our next meeting will take place on March 18th. Again, that will be by Zoom. We will send that information out. There is our contact information, as well as our website, our social media, and our YouTube channel. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next month. Take care, and thank you for all you do. We appreciate you and all the efforts that you put in. It does make a difference for our students. So thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. So with that, could I have a call for a motion to adjourn?
I motion.
Motion. Second.
All right. Jerry motion, Travis second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. All those opposed, abstain, motion carried. We adjourned at 12:56 p.m. So thank you all for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Take care, everybody. And have a good weekend.